You know what I don't get? I don't get how all these other YouTubers seriously sit down with perfect hair. Like, I've got hair sticking out to the side. Like, how do you even manage that? Well, so I guess I'll start by saying you have to forgive my backdrop. I am in the corner of the kitchen. I'm in a living arrangement where there are four of us in a small 2-bedroom apartment at the moment, and I'm hoping to, evolve out of this situation into something that's a little better. But right now there's a lot of shuffling around in my life. There's a new job, new living arrangement, there's, pets involved, all that kind of stuff. So we're just trying to figure out, where life is taking us. So at the moment, this is what I got. Hi, how are you? I am Bewitched Spirit or Spirit, and this is Bewitched Adventures. Today I would like to go ahead and talk about some of the common moral and ethical conversations that you might find when you first start out researching witchcraft and the occult. So, the first thing that I will say is that it is, in my opinion, 100% your responsibility to be responsible for educating yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a mentor that helps you along the way, or maybe multiple mentors, but it does mean that ultimately you are the one responsible for your witchcraft education, for your path, for your journey. This isn't something that anybody else can really do for you. You have to put forth the effort to learn. And that may be just getting through a course, or that can also mean getting through your life, because really witchcraft is a life path, or a collection of paths that in which you choose your own direction. It's kind of like one of those choose your own story or create your own adventure books, like, turn to page 32 and read from here. It's just kind of how it goes. But you do need to accept responsibility for yourself and not blame other people for your shortcomings in your education. If you find that you have fallen short somewhere in your education, then you need to go through and plug that hole, fill that gap, and figure out exactly what you need to do to grow as a person, to grow as a witch, or whatever term you are going by, occultist, wizard. There are so many numerous things you can call yourself. But in the end, the only person responsible for you and your magical journey is you. And I think that is something that is overlooked. I see a lot of new witches going, well, so-and-so didn't teach me that. Well, there's a million things that people could not teach you. If you want to learn something, you need to seek out that knowledge. Somebody else can offer you a hand and help you up to the next step, but ultimately it's your muscles that have to take that step. Nobody is going to airlift you to the top of the knowledge pyramid. In fact, I don't know that anybody can reach the top of that pyramid. So I think it's something to, really be considerate of. And it's not really fair to put the weight of your journey and education on somebody else's shoulders, even if it's multiple people, be it a coven, a circle, or an individual. There are a lot of resources that we didn't have not too long ago. The internet is massive. We have the ability to look up videos on YouTube and look up shorts on YouTube and other sites like Witch Talk and various websites for information. We have audio books and Kindle libraries. You can often rent PDF books from your local libraries. There's so many ways you can go about things, and it really hasn't been all that long that a lot of these resources have been available. So there's really not much of an excuse not to at least start your research without, necessarily needing to go to somebody else. Then again, somebody else could also help kickstart you into a new topic, and that's okay too. But as long as you're not putting that information completely on somebody else as a responsibility for them to be teaching you, because they could teach you over and over and over. You can sit in a class and it's up to you to actually take that information and go through on your journey and figure out what to do with it. Another thing I want to talk about is judging and threatening others. You'll find this a lot in the community, especially in the online community. People are kind of emboldened by the fact that there is a computer between you and them, and possibly thousands of miles. And you may be one of those people. So I'm going to talk on both sides of this. If you're one of those people, you need to cool it, because it's not okay. This community, Witchcraft, is all about empowerment. We're empowering ourselves to take control of our lives and walk a path that brings about change. We shouldn't really be putting people down, threatening people's lives, and all that kind of stuff because we disagree with something that they're doing or saying. Honestly, people need to get over that. Nobody is going to 100% agree with you. And the fact that this is a spiritual path that links to religion and all kinds of other things, we are so much about the diversity of our beliefs that I think people need to remember to respect that diversity and empowerment that comes with the path of witchcraft, and really learn to overcome that obstacle. So if you're one of those people, put that on your list of things to improve. Maybe work a spell or something to help you overcome that obstacle, because it's seriously not cool, guys. On the other hand, make sure you're taking care of yourself too. So if you're somebody that's been threatened or is being threatened or is worried that they might be threatened, take the steps necessary to secure yourself first. If you're going to share a controversial opinion of something, including the fact that you are a witch, maybe don't also provide the information that is going to lead to somebody being able to harass you easier or in more depth, like your name, address, phone number, email, that kind of thing. As content creators, a lot of us are putting out our faces and our opinions, and sometimes that's enough to even get harassed. That's a risk that content creators take, and we know that we're going to get people that don't like our videos, in fact dislike our videos, that make comments, to the contrary of what we're saying. And that's, like I said, that's a risk that people that are putting their faces out there with the tag of witch, that's something that we've considered, and well, at least I hope we've considered. Like I think I mentioned in my previous video, back in the late 90s and early thousands, when the internet was still new and shiny and MySpace was huge, there was a lot of hullabaloo about not sharing your personal information because of the consequences of that. I think we've lost a lot of the understanding that there is consequence with sharing names and faces together, addresses, that kind of thing. It does lead, unfortunately, to harassment and sometimes damages to property and people. And the thought in the 90s is that sharing your ASL, your age, sex, location, was about all you were going to give anyone, because it was so it was such a big thing that you might be kidnapped or somebody might harass you or steal your identity. And I feel that there's still a lot of validity to that. I'm not saying live in fear, but definitely consider that. So if you are being threatened or negatively judged or harassed by others, make sure you're taking steps to avoid them actually finding out any information that is going to take that off the internet or spread them to being able to harass you in other places on the internet. Remember that you do have a block button, often report buttons. You do not have to have contact with people. There are a lot of tools. If it gets too intense, make sure you're reporting it to the authorities so that you can be watched over and kept safe. But just like with your education, your safety is paramount and your responsibility. So please be cautious and remember that the world of the internet has opened up that many more people that can hurt you. Again, I'm not saying live in paranoia, but maybe just, take care of yourself. Another one that I would like to talk about is praying and casting for other people without their consent. I'm putting praying in this along with casting with this because I believe that casting spells is very much akin to praying for somebody. Casting a spell may have a lot more ritual or ceremony to it, a lot more steps perhaps, but people still in other religions light candles and meditate in front of them while praying, or just pray in front of a candle. They have prayer beads, sit there and chant. There's a lot of ways that casting spells and rituals and ceremonies and stuff in witchcraft do relate to the practices of other religions. I encourage you to do a lot more research on that, and maybe I'll even share some of the similarities between religious practices and stuff in the future. I did study religion as a minor. I particularly enjoy Asian religions, but that's another topic. I could go on a whole tangent about that. But a lot of people believe that you should not cast spells and thus pray, or wherever you draw the line, for other people without getting their prior consent. I think that this is going to be one of those things that's definitely a personal opinion for you. I do in general believe that anything I say is my opinion, and you should definitely take my opinion as a research jumping point and, really go and do your own research, because again, you're responsible for your education. I just personally feel like this one is something that I want to point out as being controversial. Some people believe that it's their obligation to pray for and cast for others, whether or not they have the consent or not. And then some people also believe that you shouldn't pray or cast for anyone until you have received their consent. Now, I will say that I think there are some personal outlooks on it that I have, which I believe that if you want to have if you have the point of view or want to have the point of view that you need consent, I think that that's great. I think that I want to involve people in their own healing journeys and lives as much as possible. So for me, I do seek consent often first. Of course, there are times when I don't. Like if I'm going to engage in baneful magic, which I believe is a perfectly acceptable self-defense mechanism, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But I believe that you should, or at least I will and should, get consent before I do these things, because I feel like it helps them engage in their own lives, and the more engaged in their own lives and success they are, the better, right? There are benefits to knowing that somebody cares about you enough to put forth the effort into getting your consent and casting the spell or saying a prayer. And I think there are great psychological benefits for knowing that somebody cares about you. So that's part of my reason for getting consent. Now, if I can't get consent, I don't remember who it was, but I watch a lot of YouTube, and there's a lot of YouTubers in the witch community and the occult community that I actually really enjoy. I go through kind of cycles where I just binge watch witchcraft videos on YouTube, sometimes rewatching old ones. But one of them had said something about kind of putting in a clause into your spell or prayer. And that clause basically says, if it is the will of their ancestors and guides and the universe or whatever, then let the spell be so, because then it, it doesn't allow as much room for things to happen to that individual, be they good or bad, without consulting their guides and stuff. And that allows whatever their karmic deal is in life to adjust to what's going on, which honestly, I don't believe you can really affect somebody's life unless it's going to be meant to be, or their guides and whatever balance out there is going to say that they should anyways, because if they have a deity watching over them, I'm sorry, it's just not happening. I just heard recently about the whole 2020 hexing the moon thing, and I think it's hilarious, honestly. But I think, like, I don't think deities would be like angry about it. I think they'd just laugh. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't think you can curse the moon or, other beings like that. I don't know. That's a whole other thing, and maybe I'll make a post about that too. But yeah, so getting consent for somebody and casting for somebody, you can put a clause in it that basically says, if this is the will of, the powers that be, or their deities, their guides, whatever it is, then it will happen. And if it's not, then it won't. And I think that's a great way to cover your bases either way. But there are definitely people who don't believe that they need to ask for consent, and I'm not here to say that that's necessarily wrong or not. I'm just presenting this as an educational understanding of the various stances, and I'm telling you where I stand. I guess another one that I would like to cover, excuse me while I adjust, my positioning wasn't very comfortable, the ethics of casting love spells. There are a couple schools of thought here. The first one is that you should note that love spell has become kind of an umbrella term for various types of magic regarding love magic in general, which can include self-love spells, obsession spells, love attraction spells, probably binding love spells like rituals and ceremonies such as hand fasting and marriage and things like that. It kind of covers this, huge, broad variety of terms, and they all mean different things. So in this case specifically, I'm going to talk about baneful magic, and that people typically don't agree with people taking away the free will of others. And so by casting things like obsession spells and trying to force somebody to fall in love with you, most people in the witchcraft community seem to frown upon that, but it is a highly controversial topic, and there are a lot of varying opinions on it. I personally have the opinion that anything you do in life has the potential to change somebody's point of view, interfere with their free will. It's not going to be just love magic. I'm trying to think of an example. You could cast any number of spells that could really hurt other people without you thinking about it. And while I don't think you should necessarily not cast a spell because of that, I do think you should be aware of the decisions that you're making and the actions you're taking. One of the ones that I have heard that is likened to casting a love spell is going to be a career spell to help you nail a job, when you particularly do that, you also are maybe not considering the fact that you're taking away a job possibly from somebody else, and who knows what position in life they're in. They might be a mother of 8, and they really needed that job to make sure that those 8 children are fed. And now here you are, maybe just a college student that just happens to need a job and some experience, and you're getting the job first. So it's important to know that while casting a love spell and an obsession spell and taking away free will may not be looked upon favorably, that there are many other things that we do as witches that might not be considered the most ethical and moral approaches to what we're doing. And that's something that we have to accept, and I think we just need to be aware of. And I think ultimately that is okay, and just approach it from an educated stance. So on to the topic of baneful magic. So baneful magic is going to be what people would consider hexes, curses, jinxes. There's probably many other different names for baneful magic, but baneful magic is the umbrella term that encompasses these different types of spells. Or practices, workings, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's something that is designed to have a defensive or maybe malicious intent. And, well, that's going to be sometimes like the love magic, like I said, especially like the obsession magic, but it could also be something where you're trying to curse them not to be able to get the job that we were talking about. Maybe your approach to getting the job is to, or a promotion is to sabotage your coworker. There are a lot of ways that you could, view something as a curse or whatever. I do think that in general, baneful magic should be a last resort and a defensive resort. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong if you're casting baneful magic, or right if you don't believe that you should. Wait. I mean, what I mean is I don't think either side is particularly wrong. I think there's a middle ground, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. On one hand, you do have the side where is a little more popular with the Wiccan community, and maybe people that are a little more on the light side of the community. I've heard it as almost like a derogatory term, like the fluffy bunny side of the magic community. And I think that a lot of that does stem from the Wiccan Rede and the law of return that is really kind of built into their religion. And while I am not Wiccan myself, I have definitely studied a lot of Wicca, and I have a respect for Wicca, and I'm not saying that anybody's wrong. Maybe the threefold law, where it's going to come back to you, all your actions come back to you threefold, and maybe that is right. But I also don't believe that you shouldn't be able to defend yourself. And on the other hand, there's the psychological aspect of, if I am going to sit here and put all this time and effort into putting away my anger and stuff and sending it off to repel whatever has hurt me, then there is that psychological promise of being relieved of that tension. It's kind of like having an angry journal entry, except you're journaling to the universe and saying, I want this person fined, and this is the fine I want to deliver. And I guess there are ways of dealing out that kind of justice, or directing that kind of justice, that you may not consider baneful magic, and that might be praying for your justice. That might be asking your deities to do a variety of things to that individual, and that might not be seen as baneful magic to some, but it might be to others. And so it's really a controversial topic in general. Baneful magic can be it can be really based on somebody's opinion and perspective, and I think it is incredibly smart to note that you are just one person and that everybody is going to have differing opinions on this, and that's okay. So the next thing to kind of piggyback off of baneful magic that I want to talk about is just the safety in your practices. There are other controversial topics like sacrifice and blood magic, sex magic, using drugs and alcohol. And I'm not going to get into the individual ethical and moral perceptions of those things. But what I am going to say is that if you are using those approaches to things, if you are working with blood, be it your own or somebody else's or any other bodily fluids, make sure that you're doing so safely. Use sterile knives, use, a sterile environment, clean up after yourselves, make sure it's sterile afterwards, dispose of things correctly, etc. If you're having sex, practice whatever safe sex practices you need to. And if you are going to be indulging in adult behaviors regarding substances, that you take the precautions necessary to keep yourself safe. For keeping myself safe on this one, I do recommend that you also maintain whatever legality you need to in your particular country of residence or wherever you are at the moment. So I honestly can't, say do anything that's illegal. Just be safe of whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it, including maintaining, compliance with laws to keep yourself safe, because going to jail and having fines and stuff is no fun either. So anyways, so that's all I really wanted to go ahead and say today. Like I said, I've been moving, I've been shuffling things around in my life, so I think recording a couple of times this week wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I felt like it was something I could do to help direct my attentions in life at the moment, and I am happy to get to talk to everybody. And if you would do me a solid and hit that like button and subscribe, share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff, I'd really appreciate it. Again, I'm Spirit with Bewitched Adventures, and all you have a wonderful day.